further ado, maybe start the recording. Okay. So, um, so here's kind of a tentative agenda of understanding basics of quant analysis. You should be able to start your Intellectus account. It's probably sitting in the chat. How to log in. We'll set up data, conduct some analyses. I'll show you how to download. Discussion draft is something new, which is taking the results and your quantitative results and generating a draft, and then some Q&A. So for sure, let's just start with some basics here. Before we do any kind of analysis, you need to know that data has levels of measurement. There's 3 of those. Nominal, which is name only, it's just the labels. Republican, Democrat, male, female, non-binary, whatever other labels. There's no hierarchy to be had. They're just names of things. Ordinal have names, small, medium, large, but they also have an order. Okay. Younger, middle-aged, elderly, again, the labels, but also have orders to them. And scale is represented by the ruler. And this has all 3, both labels, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, an order, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, and then equal spacing or equal volumes between each one of these things. So these are the 3 levels of measurement, and those icons are used inside the tool. So you'd be sure to look when you're entering in variables to look for those icons as well. Also, it's just not a convenience or some arbitrary necessity to understand levels of measurement. The different tests require different levels of measurement. So that's why it's important, okay? It's just not random, like, hey, give me another thing to have to remember. But it's actually used to both in the data selection, data analysis plan, and the analyses. Okay. We also need to kind of know what an IV and a DV is, what's an independent variable, what's a dependent variable. This isn't hard and fast, but dependent variables typically depend upon the participant. The outcome variable of interest could be the observation, all right? So that's the outcome variable. The independent variable is typically a variable that the researcher is dictating, like I want to see if there's differences on a 5K run by gender. Well, the time of the 5K run, that's going to be dependent upon the participant running, of course. And I'm, as the researcher, saying, I want to look at that by gender. I could have said, I want to look at that by age. I could have said, I want to look at that by country or whatever. So for sure, the dependent variable is dependent upon the participant, and the independent variable is often selected by the researcher. Okay, so I think we're ready to go into the getting logged in. So you can follow along with what I'm doing. You can log in yourself. We have example data sets, or if you have data, even better yet, because you can upload your data and then share that data with me, okay? While that's happening, I like to just share that if you are struggling with any of these 3 things, you are not alone. Very common that people come and say, I don't know what test to conduct. I want to see if there's differences between, in blood sugar between time 1 and time 2, but I don't know what test. So data plan is a challenge, okay? How to conduct the test is also a struggle for people, typically because you were using Excel or SPSS, frankly, that with 300 drop downs, it's easy to get confused. Where are the assumptions? Okay. And then certainly understanding that output is a challenge as well. Like, what statistics do I report? What do I not report? Okay. Intellective statistics kind of handles all of these things. So that's why it was developed. And so we'll get to this loading up the data set and data cleaning. So we'll get there, and we'll get to all of these things. Upload data, cleaning data, and then discussion draft. So, and I think with that being said, let's just move right into intellective statistics. Okay, so let me just show the data cleaning wizard real quick, and then folks that want to follow along, we will upload data together. So just a quick preview here. Projects is where you upload data. Okay, and you can upload in different file formats. We can choose an example data set, which I'll show you in a minute. Or we can enter data manually or paste in a flat file. So projects gets data in. The management, okay, is where you can do things like create composite scores or download new data, okay, things of that sort. Plots are where you can actually just generate some visualization of your data. Okay. Analyses are where you can conduct your analyses like descriptives or t-tests or chi-squares, okay? So these have different drop downs here. And these are the 4 tabs that most people are working with, okay? Uploading data, managing your data, visualizing your data, and conducting your analyses, okay? These 3 tabs are really kind of a priori things. So a decision tree helps figure out what test. For example, I want to predict an outcome, and that outcome variable is scale. I'm doing a linear regression, and I could just jump to that and conduct that. So decision trees help decide what analyses or analysis is appropriate. The data plans are really for your IRB and your data, well, in your methodology and in your IRB, in your data analysis plan, you can select which test, and you can have a simple write-up, okay, that you can download here and edit, all right? And power analysis, this is a really helpful tab that, you know, for sure for methodology and to know how many participants you need. And IRB is going to want that as well. And power analysis is really that, if you want to find differences, I want an 80% chance of finding differences. How many participants do I need to do that? Okay. So for different tests, like a paired t-test, you can kind of see, for a medium effect size, okay, how many participants I need. You can also download and edit this. Okay. So first thing I just want to show quickly the data cleaning wizard. So I'm going to upload an Excel file, and let me just see here. Let's just call this the wizard. So what happens is when you collect data, if you collect it in Excel, great. You know, if you upload it in Excel, that's fine. Just make sure that your participants are on rows and your variables are in columns. Okay, that's the basic setup. When you upload from Qualtrics, though, typically we have a few problems. And we'll go into the data cleaning wizard. And some of those problems are that you have multiple headers. You have to update variable names. Sometimes there's misspellings between male with a capital M and male with a small m. You have labels that you need to turn into numbers, and those numbers need to be aggregated, okay, into a subscale, that is. So let's just show you what that looks like. So here, sometimes in Qualtrics or SurveyMonkey or Question Pro, if they're still around, you have, variable names Q1, Q2, but sometimes you have the whole question underneath there, or the labels, male, female, or something to that. So you want to get rid of that. And in this tool, you only want to have the short variable name, not the whole question. So I'm going to click on that, apply those changes. And now I have a data set without those, with just the variable name and then the data underneath. That's what we want. Next, if you have variable names you want to change, like it's too long, and you don't want too long a names because it makes your tables kind of unattractive. So you can enter in different variable names there. Okay, and then apply changes. Okay, and then go to next. Here, we're going to merge misspelled variable levels, like disagree with 3's and 2's. This is the before, this is the after. I'm going to merge these two. Next, I do have Likert type items. So I happen to have a 5-point agreement scale. You can select the scale of interest or that you're using. I have labels. I need to turn them into numbers. So to do that, I'm going to make sure that these labels and these numbers are what's represented. Sometimes it might be a 0 to 4, for example, something of that sort. So you want to make sure you have the right common scale. Apply those changes and go to next. Next, I want to create a composite score. So here I want to create, let's just say a total. Okay, so I can rename my composite total. I want to sum them. I want these items in there, but sometimes you have a reverse worded item that I need to reverse code before I sum them. So I identify the min and max values, identify the items in my total score that are going to be summed. And I'll add a identifier, an ID variable. And finish. So what I've done is I've turned my labels into numbers, and I have changed my variable name. And I've also created a sum score here. Okay. The only other thing I would do here, and by the way, for those that are doing data analysis, 90% of the task is managing data. To do the analysis, 30 seconds. So we're accomplishing a lot here in a very short time, which is what we want to do, which is manage the data. So I want to do two other quick things here. I'll just do one other quick thing. Sometimes you have an open-ended response that I want to classify, and under the management, under text classification, I can select that variable and bucket those open-ended responses into different categories. Takes a second. So what you'll see here, if I scroll on over, is that those open-ended responses happen to be around transformational leadership are bucketed into these categories. The usefulness of this is, one, it's a quick dive into those open-ended, but secondarily, you can now use those buckets to interact with your other quantitative data. All helpful. Okay. All right, let's just go to, for those, well, let's just see if there's anybody who sent data, so we can just move right into that.
And if you shared your data, if you want to raise your hand, we can unmute you. Or if you just have general questions, you can raise your hand.
Yep. In the meantime, for those that are logged in, I'll just upload an example data set. You can go to, I think it's called master data set. So I've gone to the middle tab, example data set, and I've gone down to master class. And here we kind of, we can see our data here. Some ordinal variables. By the way, you can look at these things by going to manage. You can kind of see what those labels are and what those frequencies are. Ditto for these other variables here. And scale variables are just numbers. So once you have, and if you wanted to create, say, an average GPA, very common to use a variable calculator. And we could just get a mean, well, let's just name this thing average GPA. Okay, we can get a mean composite. Identify the variables that you want in that mean composite, and you can see I've named it. I'm averaging pre and post GPA via the mean composite button, and then hit submit. And you can see our average GPA variable here. You might also want to download your managed data. Once I've created new variables, you want to keep your data. And when I open that up, and you can see our new variable is sitting here. Okay. So that was under download data. You can plot data very easily by clicking on a plot. If I wanted to look at my GPA scores by age group. You can kind of see a GPA pre, post, and average for the different age groups. You can change these labels, like the titles. You could export it in numerous ways, including just edit to the analysis document. Okay. And you'll see that these are 10 common plots. Okay. Okay. All right. Under the analyses, we really run the gamut from descriptives, which are very simple to use. Click on descriptives. Always run descriptives on everything. The reason you want to run descriptives is if there's a data problem, that's the time you want to find it, add to analyses. So you want to make sure there's 30 folks there. Okay, makes sense. Particularly with scale variables, or interval ratio, the mins and maxes, you want to make sure that that's accurate. If there was a 99 there, that would be a problem, or a data entry error. Again, before you do the analyses, this is the place to kind of correct your error, right? All right. Or if GPA was 44, you'd want to go back to the data. You want to go into the edit data, and you want to correct that 44, to a 4 or something of that sort. Okay, we could, above and beyond descriptives, we can do correlations, we can do t-tests, we can do ANOVAs and regressions, non-parametric tests, very common for chi-squares. You can do SEM, and then other things like mediation and moderation. So let me hear from you all what you're working on. So what kind of analysis you work, if you have data, raise your hand. I'm not sure that that's happened, but if that has, I'll know about it here. Okay, and just maybe even just general questions. Plus, I see a hand raised from T. Hi, T.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. What's happening?
So, I am doing a correlational study,
Yeah,
and I'll need to do all the descriptive analysis, of course, run some correlations, possibly some ANOVAs and MANOVAs.
okay. So,
Um,
so let's talk about your research questions or study aims. So can you give me your study aims?
yes, I don't know if I can even share.
Or off the top of your, well,
uh,
just even give me one of them. Because what I want to do is just relate that to the levels of measurement. Because when I think about correlations, I'm thinking about scale variables. And then when you said ANOVA, I'm like, what's the independent variable there? So makes me curious
So, so I'm
questions.
looking at the correlation between communication and job satisfaction.
Okay. So let's just mess around with this data here. So we can have our communication variable here. Okay, and then we can have job stat here. Spelling is not working today. Okay, there we go. Okay, and what else are we doing?
So I actually have there's I'm also looking at well-being.
Okay, what about well-being?
I'm also correlating it with job
Okay,
satisfaction. So I have communication, well-being, mission and pride, which is a combined theme area,
yeah,
and job satisfaction. So
got
I'll be looking at the relationship of communication, well-being, and mission and pride independently with job satisfaction, and
it. Yeah.
then looking at all three of them together with job satisfaction.
When you say look at them all together, so you're talking about a regression there?
Yes, a regression.
Okay. So, okay, and what was the ANOVA part or the MANOVA part?
So my one of my committee members.
Oh, I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. That was in my brain as the syllables were coming out of your mouth.
Yes.
Go ahead. What did the
Um,
committee want? With all due respect, too.
right. They kind of just said run those correlations first, and then
Yeah.
see if there are any mediators or moderators that you need to look at to then run some additional analysis.
Okay. Still didn't answer my question about the ANOVA or MANOVA because you need a categorical variable for that. That's why I'm asking. You need like
Oh, okay. So yes. So I have all these different descriptors that
give me
they
one of them.
age. I have
Okay, so is
age,
it
I
age
have
or age
job
group?
age group actually,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
So
So
age
let's
group.
just stop. Okay, so let's just stop there for a second. So I have some outcome variables here. Let's just take this for a second. So, because I'm not going to go through the whole thing, short of you uploading your data, which you could have, but let's just, do you have data that you could
I
up?
do.
Is it uploaded?
I do not think so. No.
Okay. Why don't you put that into the email me that data, please?
Okay.
Is it in an Excel format?
Yes, sir.
Is it relatively clean, like we have a communication variable or not yet?
It's kind of cleaned up.
Okay, so I'm going to take it as a no.
I
Uh,
think it is. It's in shape to where you could quickly make it work. Yes. I feel that it is. Yes. I
okay,
would have to combine combine some of the questions like you did, like you just showed.
right, right. So,
Um,
so, so I'm going to hold off on that then and
okay.
get to some other kind of bigger fish here. So for sure, you can use the data management to create composite scores, okay? So you
Yes.
can do that. So I don't want to take the time to do that. But I do want to take the time to go through some of these other things that you mentioned.
Okay.
Descriptives, correlations, regressions, ANOVAs, mediation. Okay, so I'll talk about those because I think other people can figure out, okay, by the way, when you go to do some of these things, you'll notice that there's a video tutorial with all of these things. So as folks are trying to figure out how to manage data or how to conduct a correlation, okay, that there's video tutorials there. There's also, I'll mention under this question mark, there's the first thing you're going to come to is another thing around video tutorials. So these are helpful 3-minute videos that can help you do lots of things like get data in and, manage data like composite scores and things of that sort. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So that's important. All right. The other thing is, so all good advisors and all good students who are trying to keep everybody accountable, you don't want to, you do not want to say, well, we want to do mediations and moderations and have a lot of demographics. When you just told me what you told me, my brain just said I can do 500 analyses.
Yes, I could, and I
You
don't
do
want
not
to.
want to do
I
500
don't want
analyses.
to.
So before you do one darn thing, what you need to do is go back and look at your research questions or hypotheses, which I asked about earlier. You want to have those. You didn't say, I'm going to do 1,000,000 mediations. I'm going to do all kinds of description. No, we want to be very specific. Okay. So
Okay.
the right thing to do is that you have X amount of hypotheses, correct?
Yes,
How many do you have?
4.
Perfect. We want a data analysis plan on those 4 analyses. Now, if you had some crazy open-ended hypothesis like, I'm going to look at communication by age and by gender and by this, and I'm going to look at, satisfaction by age and by gender and ethnicity and okay, then that's a problem. Okay. So for all the advisors out there, we don't want open-ended 1,000 things. Okay. We want some very succinct hypotheses and data plans around those to answer those hypotheses. Okay. And a results chapter around those hypotheses, period. Okay. Because you will never get out of here. Okay. Because it's too open-ended. So what you need is a 15-minute consult with me for free. Get on my calendar, show me your hypotheses. Let's make sure the data plan is correct. And you need, by the way, your committee's already signed off on that. Okay. That's what you're doing. Now, could an advisor say, gosh, that was really interesting. Let's do another few analyses. No problem. Okay. But it's way too open-ended. So I'm saying for everybody on this call, you need to have very specific things you're doing. Otherwise, it never ends. And everybody on the committee needs to be on board. We're going to examine these 4 hypotheses in these 4 ways, period. Okay. We're not looking at
Thank
every
you.
demographic. So when you come to the meeting with me, I want you prepared. What am I prepared with? I want you prepared with your hypotheses, research questions, and data plan. You need to have that in hand. I don't want to be screwing around, waiting 10 minutes and a 15-minute call for this. Okay. So have it. All right. All right. Now, let's just take that you have the script. Let's just take 5 of the analyses we're talking about. Okay. Descriptives, correlations, regressions, mediation, moderation, and an ANOVA. Those are 5 different things. Okay. So let's just do those. Okay. So descriptives, as I said, the data management is the key. Okay. Because what I only have 4 variables, I'm doing 5 analyses with lots of things in there. That's why it's so critical to boil it down. You have to know what you're doing. You have to have a clean plan. Otherwise, it will go on, and your methodologist will kick it back, or your chair will kick it back, and there's nothing but a problem there. And then I start singing happy birthday, okay? Which means that you're going to celebrate another birthday before you get out of there, okay? Assuming the committee knows what they're doing. So first thing is descriptives. Very simple. Go to descriptives, go to add modify, select your variables, click confirm, calculate. Step through, okay? Always add to your analyses. And here, just make sure everything is cool, okay? Again, make sure particularly those mins and maxes are accurate. That the mean makes sense, okay? Because I don't want to start doing regressions and correlations when you have a 44 sitting there. My scale goes from 1 to 4, but I have a 44. That's a problem. So make sure that that's happening. That is correct. Otherwise, go back to management and correct it. Correlations, also, all of these things are very simple, but you have to know what they want, what you want. So correlations, let's just go. I selected Pearson correlation, add modify. I'm putting in my 3 variables. By the way, let me go back. Select my 3 variables. I just wanted to highlight, notice the scale variable there, okay? If you have ordinal variable, that's not going to happen here. So this is giving you a clue of what levels of measurement has to happen for this. Okay. Once you select your variables, hit calculate. For all of these different tests, we have 2 great things here, okay? One is that the assumptions are always built in for all of the tests. You're not searching around for the assumptions. Here it's linearity, which scatter plots can help you with. The other thing it helps with is an APA table. That's a winner. You're not sitting screwing around for, 30 minutes making a table. It's already made. The other thing it's doing is it's interpreting it for you. Once I know, hey, there's a significant positive correlation between communication and well-being, hunky-dory. What does that mean? Well, that means that when communication increases, well-being tends to increase. Okay, so you have the assumptions, you have the tables, you have the interpretation. But you do not want to be running 70 of these things. You want whatever's going to answer the question at hand. Okay, let's just move to regressions, okay? So under regressions, like a linear regression, say my main outcome variable is well-being, okay? And I want to see, hey gosh, does communication and job satisfaction contribute to well-being? Do these things predict well-being? Put the variables in, hit calculate. Once you do that, again, assumptions are built in. There's also a helpful scroll over to see whether it's homo or heteroscedastic. Other assumptions, okay? And then the results. First, APA table, both communication and job sat were significant predictors. Helpful scroll over there. And this is a model of how to write this up. You have to edit this sucker, but you have a draft of it, okay? So you can read over this, edit this, okay? But as with these other things, it's interpreting. Hey, gosh, job sat does predict well-being. How so? Well, when I increase job satisfaction by 1 unit, okay, well-being increases by 0.5 unit. That's important. Okay, I'm going to just stick with these scale variables for a second. For mediation and moderation, you named mediation and moderation. No, you have a hypothesis that is mediating. That is, some variable explains the relationship between 2 variables, or moderating. That potential moderator strengthens or weakens the relationship between 2 variables. But you're not throwing in the kitchen sink. No committee should allow you to do that. You shouldn't do that. You should have specific things, okay? So I know I'm kind of being a little bit harsh about this, but it's a death trap for everybody on this call that you have an open-ended thing that you're never going to get out of, okay? And it's not right that, oh, the mediation, I found that things mediated, but they didn't moderate. Oh, and I'm just going to report the significant ones. That's not how science works. Science works by you having specific hypotheses that are very tailored and delineated, limited, and you test those. And it's either supported or not supported, but it's not this open-ended, I'm going to just report the significant findings. Okay. So let's assume that we're doing moderation, okay? And you can tell these things. This is a moderating graphic, which is kind of showing that, hey, there's a relationship between X and Y, and the moderator is, again, supporting or strengthening that relationship. That's moderating. Mediating is there's a relationship between X and Y, but the mediator explains that relationship, okay? So you want to look at your three variables of interest and say which one makes better sense. Am I looking for something that strengthens the relationship, or am I looking for something or weakens, or am I looking for something that explains the relationship? Pick one. Make sure everybody's on board with it, and then do that. Okay. So mediation. You have your outcome variable, well-being. Okay. I have my, what's predictive of well-being? Let's just call it job satisfaction predicts well-being. But I think that what explains that is the communication, that if I have good communication, that really links the job sat, okay, and well-being. That's a perfectly reasonable mediating hypothesis. Back in the old days, I'll pass through the assumptions. Back in the old days, we used to have to run these regressions separately, okay? And what's really important is the indirect effect, okay? Which is to say that the job sat, okay, on well-being through communication was significant. That is that's that these are significant relationships through communication. That job sat is related to well-being through communication. Or as I said, communication explains that relationship. That's the whole key right there. Tables are made and so forth. The other thing I'll just show is the kind of this t-test or ANOVA business. And we just run an ANOVA and look at job satisfaction by age group. Notice the levels of measurement here. So I'm asking, well, I'm examining the research question. Are there differences on job satisfaction by different age groups? That's what this analysis is examining. For faculty out there, just to know that there's options to be had here as well. You may want to look at different tests. Okay, so we have lots of default set, but just to let you know. And for students, just use the typically the preloaded assumptions, preloaded options are fine. So once I have a clear question, are there differences on job sat by age group? I'm doing an ANOVA, analysis of variance, hitting calculate. As with all the other analyses, assumptions are built in. When it's a quantitative assumption, it actually identifies the test, it runs the test, and interprets the test. Okay? Assumptions. Here is the ANOVA. What do you know? There's differences on job sat by age groups because that P is less than 0.05. That's an effect size talking about the importance of that differences. Here we can kind of see graphically how job sat lays out by age group. Here are the means, and then post hoc tests are built in as well, okay? So that is, I don't really care that there's differences in job sat by age group. What I care about is which group in particular differs from which other group in particular, okay? And here you can see job set for under 30 was significantly smaller than those 51 and older. So that group is different than that group. Okay. That's what we really want to know. That post hoc is really important. The other thing is that when an assumption is violated, you may want to consider using a test, in this case, the Kruskal-Wallis test, that does not have the assumptions, but is also looking at job sat by age group. Okay. APA tables, move on. You can download this document here. And in that downloaded document, basically, I just want to share with you that that the most important part here is that there are, after we get through this, we ran a few things here, that there's APA style references. Those are hard coded, not AI, okay, that are references for the in-text citations, and is also a curated glossary of terms and symbols for each of the tests that were conducted. So that's a nice little document draft to get going. The other thing I need you to point you to is the discussion draft. Once you have your clean and clear research questions and clean and clear data plan, you can do a discussion draft, okay? And in that discussion draft, what's going to happen is, and it takes a second, this is AI driven. These references do have to be vetted. That text has to be edited because it's AI drafted, okay? We run a lot of analyses. So what you have to do is name the draft, add your specific research questions, and then what you want to do in these different variables is hopefully you have a communication scale that is a reliable, valid scale. Okay, you want to put in the precise name of that communication scale. With the author and year, that would be helpful too. So you want to do all of those, okay? Job satisfaction. I'm using the JSS from, whatever, Spetzer out of, wherever, okay? So you want to name those and type that in there, okay? Once you do that, you're going to wind up with a draft of a discussion chapter that looks something like this. If I can get to it. I'm running quite a few things. Okay. You're going to want a draft that looks like this. So what you're going to get is the interpretation of the findings. That's really critical for the beginning of your discussion chapter. How do I summarize all of these findings? Number one. Then I'm going to get into what are the theoretical implications of my specific findings? What are the practical implications of my findings? What are those limitations in future research and so forth? This is a 15-hour time saver for you, okay? Because now you have the scaffolding of a discussion chapter that, you have to go and find, future research by Baker 16. You may have to beef up your lit review for this. So just to know that discussion draft is a tremendous winner. Okay. So with that being said, questions from you, T, or questions by other people about what I just ran through?
Thank you. This was very helpful. And I'm going to be watching this recording over and over.
Yeah, I do go a little bit quickly. So yes, you can stop it and say, okay, how did you make that composite score? How did you do that correlation and so forth? So yes, you can slow it down. Hey, Melissa, I'm just curious. That does make me curious. The on YouTube videos, can you actually slow it down? I know you can speed things up. Can you actually slow things down? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I don't
I'm
know.
not sure either.
I've never tried.
And you can slow,
Anybody knows that? Let us know.
you can slow the speed down.
Yeah, you can slow it down.
Okay, great. So you can slow down because I move my mouse, quickly enough. So, all right. you're not mandated to meet with me, but do get clarification on those questions and data plans, okay? For
Yes,
you.
sir.
All
And
right.
I will definitely be reaching out.
And that would be with Samantha, so you can maybe I'll segue there. So for students that want support from current slide, So this is the time that you can use the QR code to schedule a free 15 minutes. Samantha can support you around meetings or, having my email address to send me information. Ashley for any faculty online, Melissa for everything else, phone numbers, websites. So just to know that that's here, and you'll be getting a copy of this recording as well, of course. All right, T, I wish you well.
Thank
right.
you.
You're welcome. Okay, so other questions going on here, if any? All right, without other questions, I will wish you all an early happy weekend. I wish you success with the quant analysis. Just to say that we Intellectus Statistics is there to help you. We also have a qualitative tool called Intellectus Qualitative. We have a brand new lit review tool called Intellectus Lit Review. All of these things will save you 50, 100, 150 hours of your time. You still have to do that cognitive work, and I'll say creative work, okay, to edit these things and really expand what you have. But that scaffolding is there for you. So, and please share it with others. There's only a handful of folks on the call. Please share it with other folks that may need help. And with that being said, I will wish you all again a happy weekend, and thanks for joining. Okay, until next time, bye-bye all.